Well, welcome to Groth Law Firm and the Groth Law Firm podcast, Groth Gets It. So now we're here with one of our clerks for the summer, Allison. Allison, you have been with us for months. Is that correct?
Yes, since May.
So you have to answer in yes and no answers. You can't say uh-huh or uh-uh. This is like a deposition. Because if you say uh-huh or uh-huh in the transcript, it's going to look like uh-huh or uh-uh, and we're not going to be able to know whether it's H-U-H-U-H or U-H-H-U-H. So that's my typical, that's like tomorrow I'll be taking a deposition and I will say those exact same things that you have to answer verbally. You can't shrug or say uh-huh because the court reporter won't be able to write it down. So I apologize, but that's whenever anybody says uh-huh or whatever or shrugs, my response is that because of my too many years of doing this deposition stuff. All right, so you're here to ask questions and see if Groth gets it. And
oops, did it?
Was it a yes or no?
It was a yes.
It was a yes,
but it wasn't So I'm gonna get in trouble.
And then hopefully this will be informative to other 1Ls, 2Ls, 3Ls law students or others who just want to know about being a lawyer. Yeah. So exciting. So where do you go to school?
I go to Marquette, and I'm going into my second year.
So you're going to be a 2L.
Yes.
Have you seen The Paper Chase yet, the movie The Paper Chase?
I have not.
Oh, my gosh. You have to watch The Paper Chase.
But at least I saw Civil Action.
Did you?
That one I did.
And you liked it?
Yes, and I read it for school.
Civil Action with, who is the main actor in Civil Action?
John Travolta.
That's true. It's a great movie. The first 5 minutes are my favorite 5 minutes of any movie because they talk about the mathematics or the calculus of personal injury law, I guess, right?
Who the most expensive plaintiff is.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff. But Paper Chase is about law school. I don't know if, who is the author? Gosh darn it. I forget the author. It starts with a T maybe. But it's about maybe Harvard in the 1970s and just the competition where people were, they'd find the answer to a question and then they'd go in the library back when there were paper libraries and they'd rip out pages so that nobody else could find the answer.
Oh, wow.
That kind of competitiveness. And it just, it's a movie, so there's a lot of drama, but it's a pretty good movie. So you should probably watch that before you're done. So that's my advice to new lawyers is watch The Paper Chase. And, of course, a Civil Action. Yeah.
I'm glad Marquette isn't like that, ripping up. Well, it wouldn't work, I guess, with Westlaw and
I know.
Texas, but
I don't know what you'd have to do now to make it more competitive or to feed that competitive nature. Lock somebody out of their account maybe so they couldn't turn their paper in time?
Maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm just glad I'm not involved in that. All right, so what questions can I answer from you, soon-to-be counselor?
Yes. I was wondering, why did you choose personal injury? We only had one torts class so far. Were you immediately interested in it?
No, it's a great question. So I guess that's true. I think my 1L year, I took a torts class. I did take an advanced torts class later on in law school. I took a civil procedure, Civ Pro, and then my 3L year, it was a lot of trial advocacy classes, writing. There's the Raymond Klitschko competition and award. I don't know if you guys still have that. It's a award like for best brief in one of the writing competitions. So luckily, my partner and I won that. So that was, cool. I guess, pretty cool. But that was all those things were based on writing, advocacy, and not really torts, but writing and advocacy. And I got into that because, this is going to be a long answer, so I apologize. But I got into that because I knew I wanted to go into civil litigation because I got a clerkship with a law firm in the Illinois area, in the Chicago area, I'll say more specifically. And they were a personal injury firm. And I worked there a few times a week. I worked there full time in the summer, and then during the school year, a few times a week, I would get up at, 5 a.m, get all ready, put my shirt and tie and suit on, and then drive down to their office in Waukegan, try to get there. I tried to be the first one in the office every day. So I get there, wait in the parking lot for the attorneys or office manager or partner to come in. So I would be impressive, that I'd be there before they got there. And then did all of the pre-litigation stuff. So I was writing briefs or memos, a lot of memos. I did a lot of intakes for them, and they're just a personal injury firm. So I got a lot of time talking to potential new clients and kind of see what was going on, and then how they manage the firm. It was a good experience because we went to these meetings on Mondays. I think it was a Monday at 10 o'clock meeting where they met about, it was a longer meeting. They met about like major cases in the firm and what was going on, what the theme for the week was. Law clerks had to come in and give like a case of the week, and almost like IRAC. I don't know if you guys did IRAC, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion on this case. So you could tell everybody about the new case of the week. So that kind of stuff was very interesting. That's why I went into personal injury law. I went into law school because I wanted to be a DA. I was a poli-sci major in undergrad. So then what are your options? Well, law school. And I wanted to be a DA, but I had some stories that I'll tell later on that I just did not want to go and do district attorney kind of work. Criminal law was not what I really decided I wanted to do. So then I got that clerkship, and that's how it led me to personal injury. And then through law school, I went away from criminal law classes. I kind of toyed with doing international law. I studied it in Japan for a little bit. Kind of toyed with that, realized because I don't speak Japanese or any other language for that matter, I took Latin in high school, I would not be a good international lawyer. So then I swapped it again and went into the trial advocacy, torts, civ pro kind of classes.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the history of Jon Groth, and that's how I kind of got into personal injury law.
Did you find that your law degree, it made it easy to transition from the different subject areas, or was it, I guess I know there's a variety of things you can do in it. Were you able to connect those different topics within that degree, or did you have to learn more on the job specifically? Yeah, so the answer to that is my first job after law school was working for a general practice firm in Waukesha, and I'll say that's probably the best experience that I could have had because it introduced me to everything. Yeah. So there was a lot, exactly like you said, it was a lot of on-the-job training. So I was looking at a will one day, small claims court the next day, collections for somebody the next day, collections for the firm because clients didn't pay the firm because it was hourly kind of work the next day, and then doing a buy-sell purchase agreement for a company, looking at all these different things. It was a general practice firm, so we did on any given minute a multitude of different topics, or handled and try to advise clients and all that. So I would be at night, we'd go to planning commission hearings representing our clients and trying to figure out what the planning commission was going to do because we represented real estate developers. So there was a lot of different stuff. And it was fun. And then I realized I don't like drafting wills. I get very antsy sitting there trying to figure out whether this document versus this document are different. Yeah. Just not for me. I did enjoy the small claims trials and hearings and the strategy of that kind of stuff. I did enjoy depositions. I enjoyed my litigation that I handled. So then I realized, okay, this is what I do like. This is what I don't really care for. And that's what led me eventually to personal injury work. Because I knew personal injury work, even though nowadays we don't have a lot of trials, but we know that it's more litigation based, and you're preparing clients the first day you meet them for what might happen in the end, which is a trial. So that's what I was really taught on the job, and I had a lot of experience that helped me figure out what my niche was going to be. Great, that's good to know.
Hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah, definitely.
Next question.
Okay, so what made you decide that opening your own firm was your goal? And how did you know that you were ready to start that? Oh, gosh. Obviously, that's a big jump. But
that's a long answer that probably isn't appropriate for this podcast.
Sorry.
But no,
I'm curious.
It's a good question that asked me off the record, and I'll tell you. But no, it was really just running numbers and looking at the numbers and figuring out, okay, maybe it was 2005-ish or pretty early on. I know one of my law school buddies and I
did a presentation for the Wisconsin Solo and Small Firm Conference about, and I think I still have the presentation. It's like, what is a podcast? Or what? No, what is a? No, it wasn't a podcast. Gosh, it was what is a blog? But what were they calling blogs back then? They were calling it like a legal blog, something like that. So it was like this thing now that you're like, that's very antiquated. But back then, it's like we were trying to teach everybody what's a legal blog. So with that, I bought my own website, johnpgroth.com, and tried to really sell my services to my classmates and other lawyers as individual in a firm, but almost as my own firm. And I was trying to get referrals myself because I knew that our firm did at that time the backside of phone books all across the state. So they did a lot of marketing trying to get cases in the door. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do the same thing, but for myself, because my thought was I'm going to then tell my bosses, hey, I'm an intricate part of this firm. Definitely. I'm somebody that can, bring in cases. I'm rainmaking, like the movie with, who was the movie? The Rainmaker with Danny DeVito and
Tom Cruise.
No.
Sorry.
Who were the two guys? He's Batman, and the other guy was.
I'm not the person to have on
Gosh
this.
darn it! Well, maybe Tyree can help us. Do you know? No, not George Clooney. No. Who's the most recent Batman? We have to edit this out.
The most recent one is Robert Pattinson.
Batman?
Yeah.
The guy before that. Ben Affleck.
Oh.
Who are the two guys? Ben Affleck and the other guy who was in that movie. They're friends from Boston.
Not Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Come on. This is the worst podcast ever. We are just saying random names now. Anyway, there's a movie called The Rainmaker where he's bringing in his own cases, and that's the word Rainmaker, where I was bringing in my own cases to the firm. So I was able to just run the numbers and do the math and figure out, okay, I know that I'm bringing in X number of cases, and the firm is getting the money. What if I left the firm and brought in the same number of cases? And then I, from other podcasts, you can listen to the kind of the history of that. And then when I went on my own, it worked out, and then more and more people referred cases to me, and then I just started getting cases eventually from my own website and other things, and then just the math was there. So it was really a matter of being there for a number of years, having that experience, understanding the math behind our business model, and whether I could, if I left and started anew, whether I could pay our mortgage and feed our kids, and it worked out. So what made me make the jump, I think, was simply doing the math and knowing in the end I was making money for myself, and the brand was me as opposed to making money for somebody else, and the brand is them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Next question.
Great.
Great questions, by the way.
Are you still connected to anyone from school? I know that they say reputation within the Milwaukee community is so important.
Last night, my friend from school, probably best friend, was in town, and we went to dinner. Last week, I went to dinner with another law school classmate of mine. I'm on the reunion committee. I may regret that decision if any of you watch this. Because I don't know how much work is going to be involved in it. Not that I don't want to see everybody, but just the work involved. But I'm on the reunion committee because this year's our 25th anniversary, our 25th reunion.
That's exciting.
Or I should say this next year is our 25th reunion. So there's certainly certain people, and it's a small world. So I'll be walking around Summerfest and see somebody, or I know I was at the grocery store not too long ago, and there was a classmate that, just randomly ran into. And now with, we have kids, and then what our kids are at. So we're at these different events, and I'll be at basketball games for my kids, and see so and so classmate. Or I was down in, Florida-Bama. It's a restaurant on the Florida and Alabama line called Florida-Bama. Kenny Chesney does concerts there. It's in Gulf Shores area. I was there and I ran into one of my classmates.
Wow.
It's kind of weird. But yeah, so yes, I do keep in touch with some, not many. Okay. Yeah.
And then back to, I know you mentioned you talked to or were talking to a lot of clients in the intake role at one of your first firms that you worked at. Do you have any advice for people who are new to talking to clients in difficult situations, just how to be there for them and what role you can take?
So there's somebody that is an expert on this. I think her name is Chris Mullins, and she's an expert on intake. And everything she says is pretty much golden. And how to be an empathetic listener, and just like you're doing, you're looking at me and you're shaking your head and kind of saying yes. You should use, or what's that saying? You should talk and listen in the same ratio as your ears to your mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk.
Oh, wow.
Right. So when you're talking to clients, like yesterday, there was a client who was just hysterical for appropriate reasons. Life was turned upside down because of this crash. The at-fault party had very minimal limits, so the most we're going to get is in Wisconsin, the least you can have to be fully insured is $25,000, and this person's life has changed, and we're only going to get $25,000, and that's terrible. And once we told this client, appropriately, the client was just destroyed. So letting that person vent and then understanding where they're coming from, and then what you can do to hopefully give them some guidance. And I think structure or a plan, hopefully, in my opinion, helps people get through the stressful situations, that we're going to do this, and this for you. And then hopefully they can say, okay, now at least it's not the best result, but I know there's action, that things are being done. So listening and giving a plan and telling them what we can do for them, I think, is something that is helpful for new clients or people who are really stressed out, because it's just that chaos and you don't know. And then what are you going to do? So if you give them a plan, if you listen to what the chaos is, then give them a plan going forward. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, that's great to know.
Hopefully, yeah.
Clients are everywhere, and we're kind of there to help bridge the legal knowledge.
And that's why we're called well, that's not why, but in my opinion, that's why we're called attorneys and counselors at law, right?
Yeah.
We're attorneys at law, and we're also counselors, so we're listening and counseling people for many times they're legal, but also personal stuff. What's the matter? Oh, I thought you were shaking your head like
camera break.
Like, no. What's that?
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Gosh darn it, Matt Damon.
He was everywhere during that time, so I didn't even think of that.
Matt Damon. Yeah. Rounders, was that the movie? And what was the movie?
It was Rainmaker.
No, but there was the first with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They wrote that movie, and that's how they came to be, because they were like grade school friends, right?
Yeah. I know the movie.
Wait, I do too. It's where the really smart person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was writing the math equations.
Gotta Google it. I remember. I think I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So
I bet you weren't expecting Batman as Robert Pattinson, though. That one's new.
I didn't watch that one.
It's all right. It's really long. It's kind of like...
Good Will
That's
Hunting.
it. Okay.
So we're going to awkwardly cut this in, and we'll say Matt Damon. And then you can awkwardly put that back in. So now all that chatter back and forth is just replaced by Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
All right.
We know.
More questions. Any more?
Okay. Yes, I have. How does managing your own firm differ from being an attorney as a part of a firm?
How does managing my own firm differ from being an attorney? It's a whole different world.
Okay.
Because you're managing, well, how many paper clips? How many, do we have computers? Is the internet working? All those things that are really immediate needs. If your internet's down, it doesn't matter. For our world, our internet's tied into our phones. So if our internet's down, that means we're getting no phone calls. So then that new client or that client that you have a phone call with at 3:00 isn't going to get a phone call because our internet's down. So then who do you have to fix that? That's why having vendors, having people who are experts in those areas, you have to find them early on to make sure that you have people you can trust to solve those problems earlier on. it's difficult, right? I mean, because early on it was just me in my basement and doing everything. So I'm going to Office Depot and getting legal pads and getting pens and trying to figure out if I need more insulation in the ceiling so people can't hear me or people can't hear my dog running back and forth above me while I'm trying to act professional. I'm looking at the concrete wall in front of me, those kind of things. So trying to manage just the logistics of being a lawyer with then the legal part of it, of talking to clients and pretending like I'm talking to a human when I'm actually looking at a wall. It's that kind of stuff, and having the ability to be a human in a really unusual situation, or be a lawyer in an unusual situation. But managing a law firm is certainly very different, and I wish that there were more classes in law school. This is a shout out to law schools, or Marquette especially. You need to have, and I'd be happy to come in for a little bit, I'm not going to volunteer, but come in and talk about how to start and manage a law firm. There was one class that I took, and it was, I have that book around here somewhere. It's a book, Funmaker or Foomaker, or I forget the guy's name. He wrote a book on, I think it's called How to Start and Manage a Law Firm. And it was a class that was very basic. And again, this was 1999, 2000, but it talked about getting a checkbook. How are you going to get clients? There maybe was a discussion about a website, maybe, and then trust account rules. Just very, very basic things. They should have more classes, maybe even in conjunction with the Masters of Business programs, so you can really understand that. I mean, it's one thing if you're going to go and work for a large law firm, as Sidley Austin or Foley and Lardner, because then you have professionals who are MBAs who are running the law firm, the operations. But if you're going to start your own firm, or if you're going to be in a firm like ours that has how many attorneys now? 7 attorneys or whatever we're at, 30 some staff, and we don't have a real business manager. We have a team of people, a chief operations officer and an office manager. We have them kind of helping to manage, but we don't have somebody whose only job is to run all the operations. That's where I think it would be helpful to have a class in law school really teach you about that. And the nice thing is there's all these mastermind groups, and that's what I would recommend for new lawyers, is joining like a mastermind group, listening to podcasts. There's some fantastic podcasts out there about managing law firms, and getting a mentor who can come in and really help you and understand you need to have this many gigabytes download in your Spectrum internet, because that'll help with your voice over internet protocol phones, or you need to have a backup for your internet Wi-Fi system, because if that goes down, then you're not going to have any. I mean, all these little things that you wouldn't think of. If something goes bad, the firm's going to stop working. So having a mentor, having masterminds that you're going to, I think are pretty helpful.
Great.
Yeah.
And
what else?
I think that's all I've got,
That's
except I think Marquette, an Excel class, you could teach one of those. I've learned so much about Excel.
An Excel
working
class?
here. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did not know anything about it before.
So this is a question for you. So what, I think you just answered it. What have you learned from your few months here at a law firm, at Groth Law Firm? What have you gotten out of this experience?
Well, I've definitely gained skills in being able to balance several different projects and different phases because we have so many clients here at different points in the litigation process. I've had to balance different deadlines and things like that, which it's a little different from school because a lot of that, you're building up to this exam period.
Mm-hmm.
But here everything is happening in the world around you, and these are lives that you're affecting. So
there's lots of emergencies, lots of things that must get done yesterday kind of thing,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I think that's really helped in just general knowledge about the litigation process. I didn't think I was interested in litigation before working here, but I've enjoyed it a lot. I knew that I liked client contact and I liked here when I interviewed. So
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Client contact really makes it much different. It's a different experience actually talking to people, because that's why I went to law school, really to help people,
Yeah.
right? So it's different doing that than not to knock patent lawyers, but to be in a room looking at schematics all day. Yeah, interesting. And that was an unjustified knock. I mean, my best friend is a patent lawyer, so that's why I was saying that.
Came to mind.
It's because now I know he'll listen to this, and then he'll call me and say, "Hey, what's going on?" All right, I think that's it. Any more questions? I don't think so. So I think Groth gets it. Thank you for coming in today, and hopefully we'll see more of you, and it'll be exciting to see what you do in the future. So please keep in touch. But we'll have you back. I don't know. We'll have a reunion tour sometime later on. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Cool. 11:33. Holy cow.
Dang, it didn't.
Who's next?
It didn't feel like it was that short. When
That's
did we
short.
start?